Hello everyone, welcome back to Analytical Guy. In this video, I'll talk about Power Query. Power Query is a very important, powerful ETL tool that is extract, transform, and load. So it is used to clean your data, to transform your data. In short, it is used to automate your daily boring tasks, right? So if you are a data analyst or a data scientist, Power Query can be quite handy. It is with Excel. So if you're an Excel user or a Power BI user, you might be familiar with Power Query. So this video will be end-to-end Power Query tutorial. So we will talk about the interface, we will talk about the basic operations that can be done, then we will talk about how to clean your data, how to transform your data, how to use parameters, how to work on functions. It will be a very lengthy. It will be more than 1 hour video, but it will be so good. It will be so helpful for you in your daily tasks as a data analyst. So don't skip this, watch this video till the end, and I can guarantee you that you will know about Power Query a lot more than before. First of all, let me tell you the definition of Power Query before we head to the practical aspect of it. So Power Query is a powerful data transformation tool used within Excel and Power BI. As discussed, it provides an intuitive interface for cleaning, shaping, and combining your data from various sources. This is interface. So you can see there are various parts in ribbon, and this is my ribbon. Number one, number two is queries, number three is the data, number four is like whatever the steps you apply or the query settings, and five is will show you all the profiling of your data, like number of columns, rows. If there is any error or warning, it will be shown over here. So this is the interface part, and this is what we will talk about in this video. So we will transform and combine your data with various data sources in Power Query. So we will connect to data, we will clean your data and transform it, we will combine various data, we will load to the destination, and we will do the advanced cleaning and automation. So let's get back to Power Query Editor.
All right, guys, so now we are on Power BI Desktop. From Power BI Desktop, there are multiple ways of going to Power Query Editor. One is straightforward, clicking on Transform Data from here. You can go directly to Power Query Editor, or you can click on Get Data towards the right, and you'll be prompted to select a source, and then it will redirect to Power Query. Third option is getting data from another source from here, importing data from Excel or a SQL Server, so on and so forth. And there is the quite common approach. If you select on get data and select the common data sources, or you can click on more and you will be prompted to see so many data sources that you can get the data from. For example, if you want to grab the data from the CSV file or Excel, you can just click there and click on connect, and it will show the options from where you can click and get the data. So main purpose of Power Query is you are extracting the data from a particular source, and then it is sitting in Power Query where you can clean the data, you can then transform and then load whatever is required in Power BI, right? So for example, in this scenario, first we will go to text in CSV. So this is what we will use as our source. Once I click on connect, it will give me options. Currently my files, CSV files, are inside this folder, PQ tutorial. Click on global electronics. I'll share this data with you so that you can practice along. So now, for example, if I have to get the customers table, I'll click on customers, and then it will show me this preview, and then you can click on load. It will be loaded directly in Power BI. Otherwise, if you click on transform data, it will go to Power Query Editor. So what I'll do is I'll click on transform data. It will open the Power Query Editor. You can see here. So first of all, before we go ahead and import more files, let me explain you the interface of Power Query Editor, and then we will do data cleaning, transformation, end to end. You will understand everything about Power Query from this tutorial. So first of all, if you see the ribbon, you have home button, then you have transform, you have add column, view, tools, and help, right? So main is home, where you can see you can have the new source, you can click on recent sources, you can click on enter data, and then you can enter your own manually. Then you have data source settings, manage parameters, refresh preview. So once the data is loaded, and if you want to refresh it, you can click here and data will be refreshed up to that particular time. Then if you click on advanced editor, it will show you the data for that particular file query. So for example, this one, we extracted customers.csv. This is giving me the whole path. So this is in C drive, users, my name, then documents. Under documents, there is one more folder. Under this folder, there is one more folder. And then under this folder, there is another folder. Under global plus electronics plus retailer folder, we have this file customers.csv, right? So this is giving me file.contents. So this is mquery, right? So this is my source. And from here, I have done a delimiter comma because this is CSV. Then there are 10 columns and so on and so forth, right? So from this line, you can see the columns present in this particular query: customer key, gender, name, etc., and the data type of each column, right? If I click cancel and go back, so you can see these are my columns here. So this advanced editor is really helpful. You can, if you know mquery, you can edit here and it is quite useful. Apart from this, for this particular query, you have applied steps. So automatically what Power Query did was So this is my source. So if I go back to this first step, so this is my source. So then it did promoted headers, because if you see at source, my first row should be my header, right? So customer key, gender, name, this is header. This is not my row one. This is my header. So what I can do is I can click here, click on use first row as headers, and then it will be my first header, right? So this has already been done by Power Query. So generally, it is not necessary that it does. So if you go here, it is already done, and then it automatically changed the data types for a few of them, and then this is how it looks. But in case you want to do it manually, you can remove this, you can remove this, and you can see this is my first row, which is should be the headers. So what I'll do is I click here, click on use first row as headers, right? So this part is done, and then you have to see the data types. If you click here, these are all my data types. And if you see here, gender should be text, so ABC is fine. The name is text, that's fine. ABC city, then ABC for state code, state is ABC, zip is 123, country ABC, ABC continent, birthday is my date format, right? So far so good for these data types. This is how you can play with applied steps. I'll explain you even advanced version of it, how to play around. That's going to be the next part. Now, if we come back to the ribbon part, you can see here, I can choose the column. So for example, if you have to play around with this particular query and I want to choose, let's say, um, 3 or 4 columns, which are really handy and I don't want anything else. So I'll just say customer key, gender, name, and state. I don't want anything else. So I'll just select these 4 columns and click on OK. And then my table or data is already sliced in terms of columns. You can see out of 10 columns, now I have just 10 columns. And this is how you can reduce the size of the data if the data is really huge, and you can really trim the not desirable data in terms of rows or columns, right? So you can see here, my advanced editor, there is a new step of removed columns, right? So what I've done here is table.select columns, and then on the previous step, that is change type, I'm just selecting customer key, gender, name, and state columns. That's it. So whenever I'm selecting these 4 columns, all the other columns are automatically removed. Now, if you feel that this is not desirable, you want all your columns, or you want a couple of more columns, so you can go back to this step, click on this gear icon, and then let's say you want country as well and continent. Just select both of them and click OK. So this will go back to this. So this is all dynamic. So when we say automation, automation means whatever you do all the steps here, whenever there is a new data, these steps will automatically be applied, and then you will get the output version without you being doing manually again and again. So this is a one-time activity. You do the cleaning part, transformation part once, and once you're satisfied, once the client is satisfied, you don't need to work on it anytime sooner, and then your data is automated. So this is the biggest benefit of using Power Query. Now coming back to the ribbon, so we did choose columns. If we have to select, so let's say there are hundreds of columns, which is highly unlikely, but you're not able to find a particular column. So you can just click on go to column and select, hey, I want to see the state column. Just click on state, and then it will hover towards the state column. So you don't have to just scroll and see where is my state column, right? Similarly, just like choose columns, there is the option of remove columns. So I can remove a particular column. Let's say I don't want country and continent. So I'll just select this with shift, and then I click on remove columns. So this is one way I can remove back. So I'll get back the columns. Now there is one more way. So just click one column and then click on another column with shift, and then right click, and then you can remove from here as well, remove columns. So you can remove these 2 columns, or if you just want these 2 columns, you can remove other columns. So state, name, gender, customer key will be removed, right? You can remove duplicates. So I'll get back to this later on. So now you have understood choose columns, remove columns. Similarly, you can keep rows, remove column rows. So if let's say you want to remove top 5 rows, you can just click on top 5 rows. Here just mention 5, and then your 5 rows will be deleted from the top. Similarly, bottommost alternate rows, you can all play around with this. And then in keep rows, you can keep a particular, like you can keep even rows, you can keep odd rows, you can keep duplicates, or you can keep non-duplicates. So if there are errors in your Power Query, this query, you can just keep errors if you just select this. Currently, if I select this, it will give me null because I don't have any error, right? So table is empty. So I can go back, I can click this and just go back to my previous step. So now coming towards split columns. So if you want to split a particular column, let's say you want to split this name, customer's name to first name and last name, you can click here, split column by delimiter. So I want to split this on the basis of spaces, right? So I can just click on by delimiter, and I want to split on the basis of space, and let's say leftmost, and then press OK. So you can see name 1 and name 2, and I can rename this now, and I can say this is my first name, and this is my second name. Oh, sorry, last name. So what I did was just double click here, and then it will show you like this, and then you can edit the column, right? So this is how you can use split. There is another way which is easier for me. So what I do is, if you want to split, let's say state, I'll just right click here, and then I'll say split column, and then by delimiter, and same approach. Right, you can click on advanced to see how you want to split this. You can split into columns, you can split into rows. The number of columns you want to split into is 3 or 2, depending on what you require. Right, so now you can group by as well. So I'll give you a very good exercise. I'll show you how to use group by. So in group by, you used when you want to aggregate things. So let's say you have lots of sales data for the salesman. So I want to see the total sales done by each salesperson. So I'll just group the query on the basis of salesperson and aggregate as sum of the total sales. So this is the perfect use case of using group by. I'll show you that in the upcoming slides. So now if you see here, these are data types. So if I select here this particular column, and I can change the data type from text to, for example, let's say whole number or whatever. But right now, last name makes sense to be a text, so we will keep that. And we have already done this. So I click this, so you can see how the column headers have been. So headers have been changed to 301. This is my first row. Now, if you did that and this is incorrect, so you can go back. You can roll back to the previous step. How? Just go towards the applied steps, click on this one and this. So it will go back to your previous version, which is absolutely fine, right? So now in this column, if you want to replace a particular value, generally, let's say in gender, let's say you have nulls and you know if null is there, it is male, for example. So what you can do is you can click replace values, and to find is null and replace with, you can mention female or male, whatever is the desired requirement. And if you want to match entire cell, just click this, and this is how it will work. Right, and then we have very important functionalities of Power Query, that is merging and appending. Once we import new sources and we will have more queries, just not just customers, then I'll show you how to merge and how to append and what is the perfect use case of that. These are some AI insights which are hardly used, so we will not cover this in this particular tutorial. Now coming to transform, you can see here we can do transpose. Transpose is like your x-axis will become y-axis, your y-axis will become x-axis. So it's like columns will become rows, rows will become columns. So that is quite used, quite handy. So I'll share the link of my previous video on Power Query where I explained how to clean your data using transpose and pivots. So you can just see the top right on the screen, and that is where you can watch that. And there are various other things like data types, filling, pivot columns, unpivoting, splitting, which is already done. Then there are some of the maths columns, sections like statistics. You can count values, you can count distinct values in this particular selected column. Then you can work on dates, you can work on time. For example, if I've selected a particular date, let's say we have dates, right? So if I go back to my source data, I have a birthday, right? So if I select this column, if I go to date, I can parse this, right? So I have to change this to the date. So it says, do you want to insert this step? Because it got to know that I am in middle of steps. I'm not at the end of step. So it's kind of a warning that you really want to insert. I say yes, because that's the intention. So now this has become a date. Now if I click here, now these all functionalities are enabled. So if you want to extract year from birthday, let's say, so I'll just click on year, click on year. So this will insert another column, or it will insert as an existing column. And then your date of birth has changed into year, right? So I can go back and delete this, and then it is back to your date, right? So this is the beauty of it. And we have some scripts. If you know Python or R, you can run your scripts here and it is all good, right? Now, add column is quite handy if you want to add new columns as a conditional column or a custom column. So these are the two important columns that you mostly use. So conditional column is like you are working on if else, and the custom column is like you are using mQuery to add a custom column, right? So this is mostly about it. In the view, you can have monospace. So if you want your text, your data to be in monospaced, you can select this, but that is generally not the right case. If you want to see the quality for each column, you will just select this. And for each column, you will see the validity, error, and empty. So currently, all the columns have 100% validity and 00 empty and errors. So that is amazing, which is highly unlikely if you're working on real case scenarios. Now, if you want to see the column distribution, you can select the column distribution. This is how it will show, and column profile as well, right? So if I select zip code, and then it will show me for this value 4740, there are maximum contribution, right? So I can see the count is 1000, distinct is 672, unique is 4678, zero nan, zero zeros, minimum is 810, maximum is 7330, average is this, and so on and so forth. So this is how you can see. And for text as well, you will see some parts like count and then distincts as well. Right. So we don't need these pointers. So we'll unselect that. And now we have most of the things. I'll explain you query dependencies as well. This is quite interesting. So once we add more queries, this will make more sense, because currently if I show you, this is just one column, right? So I'll close this and go to Home tab and click on New Source, click on CSVs, and I'll select Products. Click OK. It will add as a new query. I'll again click on New Source and get my sales, and again click OK. We'll see to the cleaning part later on once we add all the sources. I'll also add stores. Press OK. So that's it. Currently, we have 4 queries, and that's good to start with. Now, in customers, we did all those steps. I'll remove them because we don't need that as of now. This was just for teaching purpose. Now, I can go to transform. So now, once you added a particular data, now if you feel there might be wrong data types, you can click on detect data types. So Power Query System Engine will automatically detect the correct data types. Generally, this is correctly done, but you still have to manually see if that has been mapped correctly or not. Right. So currently this is all done. You can see this birthday has not been correctly done by Power Query. So you have to do it manually. Click here ABC and click on date, and then it will be changed to my day. All right. So now that we have the queries in our Power Query editor, we have understood the basic layout of it. Now we will try to rename some of our queries, and then we will go ahead with cleaning. So first of all, you know the concept of dimensions as well as fact tables, right? So first of all, we will change the dimension tables. So customers, products, and stores. These 3 are my dimension tables, right? So I can say dim underscore customers. For products as well, I can rename from here. I can say dim underscore products. For stores, I can say dim underscore products. There's one more way. I mean, there are so many ways. There's no right or wrong. Generally, I like dim underscore or d underscore stores, or I can say d stores like this. This is a nice way, but can be complicated. So we'll say it like this, right? So dim underscore products or dim products. Let's go with this. I'll say dim stores, dim products, and dim customers. This is one of my favorite style. Now with sales, this is my fact table. So I'll say fact sales, right? So this is some of the best practices that you do when it comes to renaming the tables. So dim customers, dim products, fact sales, dim stores. So these are my 4 queries. I can play around. If you want to have a duplicate of a particular query, just right click on the query, click on duplicate, a new query will be created, right? And then if you want to have a reference, you can have a reference. So there is a difference between duplicate and reference. So the biggest difference is duplicates won't be refreshed. So when you refresh this data from home tab and click on refresh, if there is a new data in stores, that won't be reflected in the duplicated stores, because duplicate is the current snapshot, like the snapshot when it got duplicated, right? Dim stores 3, which is a reference is like the current snapshot, whatever is the existing current scenario when you refreshed. So whatever is the data in dim stores will be there in dim stores 3 all the time. Dim stores 2, which is a duplicate, will have the data whatever was there when it got duplicated, right? So that is an important concept whenever you're working with data. So I can just delete that because I don't need that. And there is a inclusion of enable load. So for example, if you say this is my reference, but this is just for calculations or just cleaning part or something else, and you don't want this to be loaded in Power BI. So what you do is click on enable load and it won't be loaded. You can see this is italicized, right? And if you see here, this is not enabled now. So once you close and load this data, so all these 4 tables will show up in Power BI. Dim stores 3 won't be shown up, right? I can delete this anyway now, and then we are all good. All right, so now we are done with this fundamental renaming and the overall interface part. We will now work on the transformations. So in this section, we will start with removing unwanted rows and columns. So if you delete any blank, null, or any unnecessary rows and columns, what it will do is it will clean up your data. The data size overall will reduce and your performance will improve. So that is a fundamental way of increasing the performance, like improving the performance of your data model. So for example, if you go to fact sales, we have order number, line item, order date, delivery date, customer key, store key, product key, quantity, and currency code. So currently we are not working with currencies. So what we feel is we have to remove this column because we are not using this in our analysis. So what we can do is we can click on currency code, right click, and click on remove. So easy. Right now, if you just click on advanced editor, so currently it is saying it promoted the columns like order number, line item, order date, delivery date, customer key, store key, quantity, currency code, right? And then after that, we removed a particular column. We could also have removed currency code from here and it would have worked, right? So if you have a bit of understanding in mQuery, you can play around with your code and this is all good. Otherwise, it's not important as such to know a lot about mQuery. If you know how to play around with this interface, that is 80% of what people generally use Power Query for. I mean, mQuery is really powerful. If you know, that is outstanding. But if you know Power Query interface, you're almost 80% there, right? So now we have understood how to remove a particular column. If you want to remove rows, for example, let's say wherever there is a null delivery dates, I want to remove them. So what I can do is I can click on this. I can also just click on remove rows from here, wherever there is blank, but this won't work here because the row completely it should be blank to be deleted, right? So if you want to remove these rows, so what I have to do is click on this column, click on this down arrow, and then deselect this null. So if you deselect this null, it will never be loaded in your Power BI. If you click OK, so now all the data is there wherever the delivery date is not null, right? So if you just scroll, it's all the data, right? So now this step has been applied here, you can see. So whenever there is a new data, it will always go with all these steps. And then whenever there is null in delivery date, it will automatically filter that row and you won't see that in your Power BI. So that is the beauty of Power Query. Now, coming to the renaming part, renaming the columns. So if you want to say, I want to rename as we already did before, I want to say, this is my quantity. So I'll just double click there and I'm saying quantity. And actually we should not do that like because this is good enough. We can go to dim products and we can make this as my unit cost, right? So this all changed. So you can see unit cost and I can see applied steps as renamed columns, right? So if you go to advanced editor again, you will see the new step as renamed columns where I renamed unit cost USD to unit cost. Now, if you want to rename from here, you can do that as well, like modify. I'll say unit cost USD. So instead of just unit cost, I want unit cost bracket USD, right? And then if I do done, you will see it has been modified here. Also, you will see this is my formula bar, right? So from here also, if I go back here, if I go here, you will still see the last applied step, right? From here also, I can edit, right? So this is how you can change your column names, right? Also, when you see here dim products, you can see so many columns which are not correct. I mean, if you see here, this is all blank, right? And if you click on advanced editor, you will have all these columns. At the end, see column 13, 12, 11, 14. We don't want them, right? So what we can do is, first option is select these columns, right click, remove. Now, there is one bad part about it. So if you see advanced editor, what it is doing is it is always looking for these columns. So it is saying remove the columns whenever the name of the column is column 11, 12, 13, and 14. So it will always look for these columns only. But what I'm saying is, what if there is a new column COL 15, and that is blank? So we want to remove that. I don't want to manually do it again and again, right? So what we should do instead of, let's discard this. So instead of removing those columns, so what I'll do is just go back to the previous step. Now, instead of deleting from here until here, what I can do is select from my first column until the column I need, that is category, select this, right click, remove other columns. Now, see the difference. See advanced editor. It says removed other columns and it got selected only product key, name, brand, color, unit cost, price USD, subcategory key, subcategories, category key, and category. So there is no mention of column 11, 12, 13, 14, right? Now it is not looking for that. So whenever there is a new column by the name column 15, 20, or any column name, that won't be included in this. So this is a very Simple hack, but very efficient hack, right? Many people don't see about this, and then there is a ETL break, right? So they won't be able to connect the data nicely, and then there will be the error and also so on and so forth, right? So just make sure that you select only those columns which you need, not delete the not required columns, right? Now we have understood how to remove the columns, how to remove the rows, how to rename the columns. Changing the data types we have already worked. So if you have all these data types, you can change from here. Now, a very important part is filtering your data. Let's say I want to filter the data only for Australia, right? So if I'm going here, fact sales, and I'm saying this is my store key. So store key is dependent on my data. If I load more, so store key is not correct here. It is all zero, right? So we can drill down and see what's there. Or okay, so we have filtered this row, so maybe that's the reason. Yeah. So I can unfilter that. So now you can see there are various store keys, right? And if I go to my dim stores, I have country as Australia, Canada, France, Germany, so on and so forth, right? So many countries. All I want is I want data for Australia only. One option is if I unfilter and select Australia here, right? Australia has store key as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Now, if you go to fact sales and store key, it still have all the store keys, right? So when I load this, it will still have all the data. So what I have to do instead is I have to delete or I have to filter from here, not just there, right? Or you can just filter from here and you don't need to filter from there itself. For example, if you unfilter here, I'll just remove the step. And in fact sales, in store key, I'll have 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, whatever it was. 2, 4, 5, 6, right? Press OK. Now all this data is for Australia, right? So whenever you come here, you will see all the store keys, but your data, the actual sales data is just for Australia. So even if you have the store keys for other countries, it doesn't matter, right? So this way, so what you can do is you can remove here. So let's clean it up. So what I'll do is I'll click on reference and make it fact sales for Australia, right? Now I'll say store key is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Or this is not the correct approach. What if tomorrow there is a store ID 1, which is Australia, and then we have not selected that, right? So what we can do is using number filters between. So from here, greater than equal to 1, less than equal to 6. So this will include 1 and 6 as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and press OK. So this will give me all the store keys with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, right? So this is my fact sales Australia. So this is how you can slice, or you can say partition your data on the basis of countries, on the basis of dates. So this is how you can, you know, reduce the data size. Now there is one more thing. If you want to sort your data on a particular basis, so for example, you want to sort the customers on the basis of their name, right? So what I can do is click here from sort descending or ascending, or maybe ascending. So it will start from A. So I want this sort all the time. So this step is applied. You can see sorted rows. So you don't need to work on it again and again. Though this column has been sorted and it will always start from A and end with Z or whatever is the last name of the customer, right? One more thing. So when we were working here, you can see the gender. Here it is female, male, male caps lock. So how you can clean that? Because it should be just male and female, right? So first of all, if you right click this column, click on, so this is my text right now, right? So we can transform and make it capitalize each word. So capitalize each word means the first letter of each word will be my capital, rest will be small or lowercase. So I'll click on this. And now if you see here, this is just female and male. If you load more, it will just be female and male, because capital or uppercase male became M with uppercase and then ALE small case. So it merged, right? So this is how you can clean. It's such an easy way. Now, again, I just want to split this name of the customers as we talked. So right click and then split column by delimiter, which is my space here, and then maybe leftmost and advanced. I just want to make it split into two columns, right? So this is fine. Click OK. And then my name, one is my first name, and this is my last name. All right. So now we have understood this part. And if you see here, my data looks good. If you go to dim products, my data looks good. Here also you see my color column, everything is in caps lock. Generally, it's not nice to have data in uppercase. So what I can do is right click, then click on transform, click on capitalize each word, and this is good. Also, if you want to, let's say this brand, Contoso and other brands was not there. Let's remove this, right? Now I want to have a column which is brand. We can extract brand from product name. How? The first word of the product name is the brand. You can see Contoso, WWI, NT, WWI, Adventure Works, right? How can you do that? Contoso and C. So SV is also a brand. Fabricrum is the brand, right? So here, just right click, split column by delimiter, leftmost. Because if you do each occurrence, it will split up at the each word, right? So click on OK. So this will split up. Now, there is one problem in this. This is the problem. So if you see here, there is one brand name, Adventure Works, which is a two-word name, right? So two-word name. So we don't want this to be separate. This Adventure Works should be in the first column itself because that's my brand name. So this is my brand, right? And Adventure Works, second word that is works, is coming in the product name two column. So instead of doing this, we have to work on something else. So let me remove this step, remove the splitting part. Now, also, whenever you're splitting the column, you have to make a duplicate of it, make a duplicate column, and now split this. So first of all, we know that only Adventure Works is the one which is my uh, two words coming with space. So what I can do is replace values. I can say Adventure Works, replace with Adventure Works without space, and then press OK. Now, if you see here, Adventure Works is coming without space, right? And there is one more, that is a dot datum. So that is also you can do here. Replace values a dot datum with a dot datum. Now it's all done. Now right click, split column by delimiter and leftmost space and click OK. Now I don't want other columns. That is this one. I can remove this. And here, this is my brand. And now again, I can replace values, Adventure Works, this, paste this, keep a space between, and press OK. And similarly with a datum, copy this, paste this, and keep a space between a dot and datum. Now, if you see here, you can see a datum, Adventure Works, and all the brands are here. Perfect. Now, I can drag a column, drag this towards the left, and I will keep this after the product name. So let's keep it here. So this is how you can just play around with data. It's a very easy way to work on it without using the coding part, right? Now I think this part is pretty much done, and we can go to data cleaning techniques. So that is working on trimming part, more of data transformation, and all this stuff. All right, so let's try to work on the cleaning part of dimension stores as well. So if you go to dim stores, you'll see the state column. We have spaces, right? So the states are not starting from the first character itself, right? So we have to clean this. What we can do is right click here on the column, click on, and then click on trim. So if you trim, it will clear out all the white spaces from the left and the right side, both the sides of the text. So if you click trim, you'll see the magic happens and all the data is coming correctly and perfectly, right? Next part is if you want to merge two columns. So we did splitting, right? We did split the name into first name and last name. What if you want to merge two columns? Let's say you want to merge country and state. So you want to have state and then country. For example, Australian Capital Territory, dash Australia. So what you can do is just select state first and then select country, right click, click on merge columns. So separator would be my thing, and then let's say this is my state, country, and click OK. So you can see here, it started with state, then dash, and then country. So Tasmania, Australia, Victoria, Australia, Western Australia, Australia, Corsica, France, Limousin, France. So this is how it is showing me. Now, what if I selected country first? So if you go back here and I want to merge country and state, right? So if you select country first and then you select state and then merge it, so it will give me country as my first text. What just happened? So instead of that, if you want to merge country and state in this order, if you see, what will happen? Let's merge it. So instead of having state first, if you want country first, you will select country and then you will select state. Right click and then click on merge. And then let's say like this itself, you will see country first and then the state of that country. Right. So it is important to select in a correct order. Right. And then one more thing, if you're merging columns and if you want the original columns as well, you have to create a duplicate first, because right now you can see there is no column left for country or state, which is not good. Right. So just delete that. Select this, make a duplicate column, select this, make a duplicate column, and then merge this, state, and then country. Right click, merge, the basis of this is my state, country, and then separator will be my dash, and then press OK, and this is how the new column has been created. So if you see here, right click and you click on transform. So there is lowercase, uppercase, capitalize each word, trim, clean, length, JSON, XML. Now out of this, we have already worked on most of the things. One more important part is length. So if you want to extract the length of a particular text of that column, you can use this. So again, you have to make a duplicate of this. Now of each state, I want to fetch the length of each word. So I'll just say transform and click length. So if you go to the last step, you can see this is my length of each state. So you'll see this one is 8, which one is Tasmania, TASMANIA, total 8 characters. Victoria, VIC3, TORIA, total 8 characters. So it is 8. So this is how you can extract the length. And if you see the formula of it, you'll see length. It is my table.transform columns on the previous one. And then I said on this column, do text.length. So this will extract the length from that particular text. Right. Now let's go to our pivoting, unpivoting, or grouping the data. That is very important. So that will be explained in the coming section. Now let's try to work on data shaping activities in Power Query. First, in this use case, we will try to adopt or use pivoting, unpivoting the columns or transformations of the columns to get the desired output. So what we want here is we want the monthly sales summary by product. So what do you mean by that? So I want a column which will give me all the product listing, and the remaining columns will have 12 months. That is January, February, March until December. So 12 columns. For each column, I should have the total quantity corresponding to that particular product. So how can I do that in Power Query? So that can be done using pivoting. So first of all, let me just extract order date. Then I have to extract the product key and quantity. Right click. And so before that, I need to have a copy of this. So let's say create a duplicate. In this one, I will say I want a sales summary, right? And I want order date, I want product key and quantity. I'll just say right click, remove other columns. Now I have order date. From order date, if you go to my transform, click on date, I can extract the month name. From month, click on name of month. So this will give me January until December. You will see it January until December. And now I want to use pivot so that I can get the desired result. So what I'll do is click on the month column, transform, and then click on pivot column. So once you click the pivot column, there is a pop-up, use the names in column order date to create new columns. So what is my value column? Value column is my quantity here, right? If you see advanced, my aggregate value function is sum. So I don't want to do average, median, min, max. I want to do sum, right? So sum is correctly selected. Press OK and see the magic. So you will see here my product key 1, 2, 3 until whatever the name numbers are. For each month, I have the sales in quantity. So if you want to see January in descending order, you will see that January had maximum for product key 434. And if you want to see the product corresponding to 434, that is, if you go back to dim products and select 434 and press OK, this is my product, AdventureWorks Desktop PC 230 MD 230 White. But I don't want to do that again and again. So just as the lookup function that you do, like VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP in Microsoft Excel, we can do that here as well. So if you go back to sales summary, on product key, I want to fetch the name of a product. So what I'll do is go to home, click on merge. So merge query will merge the existing query with another query in this particular file. So if I click here, I want to merge this with name products. There should always be one key on which you will merge two tables, right? So even if you've worked on SQL, you know how to do inner joins, left join, outer join. So this is the same concept. So I want to connect on product key. This is my primary key here, right? And you can see the join kind is left outer. So all from first and matching from second. So this is good enough. So I'll select this instead of anything else and press OK. And you will see here, there is a new table. And if you want to expand, you can see all the columns coming from that particular dim product table. And I just want product name. That's it. So I'll just select product name and I don't want to use original column name as prefix. So I'll deselect that and press OK. Now you have seen that the product name has been here. I'll just drag in the front. So once it's there, you can easily compare the product name with the corresponding values. So you can see here, this is how I'm easily able to fetch the names of the product here, right? And you can see the sales analysis over here. Second use case is if you want to group data. So if you want to analyze sales by store as well as product. So currently we did analysis on the basis of product key, that's the product, versus all the months separately, right? Now, if you want to grow and see different stores, how they perform for each product. This will help you to identify top performing stores as well as products, right? So for that, what we can do is if you go here in fact sales, I want store, product, and quantity, right? So again, I'll select and make it a duplicate. And this is the example of grouping. So sales grouping, and I will select store, product, and quantity, and remove other columns. Now, I want to have the grouping of store key, product key, and then I want to have the quantity for each combination. So currently, these can be double and all those sort of things. I want to have each combination, how it goes. So if I go to group by in the home tab, after selecting store key as well as product key, click group by, and I want to have sum, or you can say total, quantity, and operation should be sum, and this should be on the basis of quantity. And let's say I want to have the average as well. So average quantity sold, and this will be average, and this will be again on quantity. And let's say I want to have total transactions, number of transactions, and this will be count rows, right? And no column selection. And once you press OK, because you can see the grouping is done on store key as well as product key, press OK. You will see here the total quantity for each combination. You will see average sold quantity for each combination, number of transactions for each combination, right? And then you can just play around and remove the decimals from here, or you can go back to Power BI and then change the decimals there, up to you, right? So this is how you can group the data using the group by function. So group by is just nothing but it groups the rows based on the values, whatever you are giving here. So if you select again, so if I go to advanced, so you will add the columns where you want to group with, and then adding the new columns, whatever you want, and the operations. So you can have some average we saw here, then median, min, max, and count distance as well, all rows as well, not just count rows. So there are so many operations that you can perform using group by. So this is quite important to understand how to use pivot, unpivot, group by that we saw now. Now that we are talking about data shaping in Power Query, it's quite important to work on conditional columns. So when we are talking about adding a new column, we can use custom columns, that is using mQuery, that we will also again see later on. But right now we will talk about conditional columns. So let's go to them customers, and we have a column birthday. So we have the birthday of each customers. So now if I want to extract the age of each customer and then create various bins where each age will go into. So I want to create, let's say, 5 bins, 0 to 18, then 19 to 30, then 31 to 45, and then so and so forth. Total 5 or 6 bins I have to create. So before that, I need to have a column which is age, right? How I can extract age from this birthday. So you can see first is just extract the year from here, that is 1958, and then just subtract, like create the current year minus the year that is there in here, that is my age, right? But there is a nice way of creating the age, which is 99% correct or accurate, you can say. So first of all, let me just create a duplicate of this column so that I can change it to age. So now if you go to transform, click on date, and there is the age function here. So this age, if you click here, it will change it to duration. So if you see the data type, it is my duration, right? So I have to divide this by 365. So once I extract the dates, and then I have to subtract it by 365 to get the number of years. So I have not considered leap years here. So this is approximate. So this is good enough. So you don't want to have accurate years. So if you want accurate, then you will have to use some other formula. But this is 99% accurate and good enough for most of the situations, right? So now here, I have to tweak a little bit to extract the age from this. So what I can do is, you will see this formula. So what I've done is in this table.transform columns, so this is my previous step. So in the previous step, I'm saying this column, for each of the values in this column, extract and then subtract the data from local now. Local now will give me the date. So what I have to do is from here, I will get the date, right? And then extract the total days from it. So if I go here, I will say duration dot days and then press tab. And here inside duration dot days, I want date dot from. So whatever is the date time dot local now, I'll extract the date from here, right? Bracket closed, minus this, right? And then bracket closed. Let's see what it gives. So if you see here, if I this is my 24083. These are number of days from today minus 1958, number of days, right? So we have reached quite close. So this is again duration, but now I have to like divide this by 365. So what I'll do is bracket like divide by 365 and then press enter. So this will change to my years, and then you will see this is again duration, but this is my years, number of years, or you can say age. So I can just double click here and I can say this is my age column, right? And now if you change it to, let's say, decimal number, it is there. And if you want to fix it, fix decimal and replace current. And this is giving me up to 2 decimals. And you want to have approximate, then you can just make it whole number and it will give me either 65 or 66 for first. So it will round up to the nearest possible integer. So 66, 44, this is my age for each customers, right? So this is how you can play around and get the age. And this is really, really helpful. If you click on date format and see, there are so many options. You can fetch the age, you can fetch date only, fetch so many options in year, then month. Like in month, you can extract the month number. You can extract start of month, end of month, number of like days in month, or you can extract the name of a month, right? Similarly with quarter, week, day, you can get the earliest, latest, so many things. Right. So now that you have extracted the age, now I have to create the bins, right? So from this column, what I can do is click on add column, click on conditional column, and this is my, let's say, age group. If the column name, which is my age, is less than, so I'm saying less than 19, so that it is 0 to 18, and then add a new clause for age again, so it is less than, let's say this time 31. So I'm saying between 19 to 30. So I'm saying again age, which is less than, we can also use less than equal to, so it's fine. So I'm saying less than 51. So this is my age from 1 to 50, right? And then whatever is apart from this, let's say this is greater than 50. So 50 is already included here in less than 51, right? So I've not included here. So press OK. So this will give me age group, and I can see everything is defined under four categories, right? 0 to 19. There is no customer which is below 19, so there is no one in that group. So we just have three groups: 19 to 30, 31 to 50, greater than 50. So I think you need to define it better. So you can make it, let's say, 18 to 30, then 31 to 45, 46 to 55, and then so on and so forth. So depending on the company situation and demographies they want to target, you can play around. So this is how you can create a grouping, and this is all dynamic because this step has already been added in Power Query. So whenever there is a new data, it will automatically add this column for that particular value as well. So once you go to home, go close and apply, this will be there in Power BI. All right, so now let's try to work on parameters. So as you can see on the home ribbon, so you will have manage parameters. If you click here, you will have new parameters option, or edit parameters, or manage parameters. So what are the use cases of using parameters? Let's say you have 10 years of data. So if you see fact sales, currently the order date, it is coming from 2016 until I guess 2019, right? So if I do sort descending, so it is going until 2021. So it is a data set for 5 years from 2016 to 21. So what if you want a data within two dates? For example, you want to see a data between 1st January 2020 until December 2020. So the user should have the flexibility of changing these data automatically. It's not like you have to change it again and again. So what if I create a parameter like a start date and an end date, which will be automatically or dynamically can be used by a user? So what if I click on parameters, new parameter? Let's say this is my start date, and the type will be date, and suggested value is any current value. Let's say this is 2024, or this is for data 2020 as well. So let's go with that, 01-01. So 1st January 2020 is my current value in this start date, right? So this parameter is created. You can see here. Now I'll create a new parameter with the end date, and type is date. Current value is, let's say, 2020 12 and 31. All right. So I have created these two dates. So this is my current value. I can change it to anything. Now, my fact sales, instead of changing here, if I go ahead, date filters to, let's say, equal to a particular date or before or after, now, instead of that, I can use these parameters. So I say if it is greater than or equal to, after or equal to, change from date to parameter, equal to start date, and is before or equal to, change this again to parameter, and this is end date this time, and press OK. So this will give me data only for these dynamic values. So currently I'm seeing the data for year 2020 from 1st of January until 31st of December. So if I change here the start date from this to, let's say, 2016, and end date to 2018, so this data will change from 2020 year sales data to year with 2016 until 2018. So you'll see this is my sorted in descending. So you will see 31st December 2018 is my last date. If you do it ascending, so you will see the data starting from 1st of January 2016. If you go here, start date is 1st January 2016. So this is how you can change through parameters. So you don't have to go to fact sales. Yeah. So just go to start date and change from here or from here, right? So one more important part here is going a step ahead. So let's say you want to give an option of a toggle kind of thing to the user. Let's say, hey, if the user wants to see the data for last 12 months or a particular custom range, how he can do that. So for that, I need to tweak a little bit in my query for fact sales. So currently, if you see here, if you go to advanced editor, this filtering is done on like order date is greater than equal to this start date, and order date is less than equal to end date. So what is start date and what is end date? It is my parameter, right? So instead of these parameters, start date and end date, I want to create a new parameter. I'll go to parameter, new parameter. So I want to create a new parameter that will be like a toggle. So let's say I create this as date range type. In this, type can be any or it should be text often, and it will be a list of values. So first value would be my last 12 months. And the second would be custom range. So custom range would be like start date, end date. Last 12 months will be whatever is the today's date. From today's date, all the 12 months before the data should come in, right? And default, let's say, is last 12 months. Current value is also last 12 months and click OK. So this is how I can create this date range type. And the default value and current value is last 12 months. Now, if I go to fact sales, currently it is working on the basis of start date and end date. So it is giving me the data for 2016, 17, and 18, 3 years data. Now I will change, I go to advanced editor and delete last two records because I don't want to work on this. Now I will add some of the M queries here. So this is where you would need M query, right? So first of all, let me define today's date. So if you want to add comments, so just add these two backslashes and that will be the comment, right? So I can give the space after comment, that will be nicer. Now here, I want to define today equal to my today's date, that is date coming from my local, right? So date dot from, and then I will add the date time. It's not coming. Dot local now, right? And then brackets, this is a function, right? So this is how I have already defined my today. Now I have to calculate the start date for the last 12 months option, right? So I'll say calculating start date for the last 12 months option in your toggle, right? So here, so my last 12 months start date will be equal to, so what I have to do is, so if you work on DAX, so this is quite similar. So I'll extract from date, I'll add this formula that add months, and in adding months from today, I have to go back 12 months, right? So it will be minus 12. So I'll say from today, go back 12 months. So that will be minus, right? So now I've defined the start date for my last 12 months option as well. Now I have to use date range type to determine the start date and end date. So use date range type as we defined here, right? So date range type to determine start date and end date. Now here, the adjusted start date, adjusted space, adjusted start date. So this adjusted start date would be equal to, now I'll apply if else. So if my date range type, this thing, this parameter, if this parameter is equal to last 12 months, this is one option, right? If that's true, then my this last start date will be my date. Otherwise, that is else, it is start date, which is S date, right? Now, comma. Similarly, my adjusted end date will be equal to, let me just copy that. If this is equal to last this, then it will be today that we defined here, else, right? Now, one last thing. Now I want to filter the data using the adjusted start date and end date, right? So now we have created the start date, adjusted one, and end date. Now if we say filter the data using adjusted start date and end date, right? Here, the filtered data, the final version, I'll say it will be, I have to select the rows, right? So I use table dot select rows. In this, I'll say my previous column. So last step was this, right? So whatever is done in this particular data, the last step is sorted rows. I'll select that over here. Yeah. So select all the rows from here. Then the column name of my date would be order date. So for each this is greater than equal to my adjusted start date, right? And the order date, again, I'll say order date is less than. So you have to say less than equal to adjusted end date. Yeah. So going here, less than equal to adjusted end date. So this is done. Now what I've done is I created today's date. So this will fetch the today's date, that is 2024 year. Then I'll calculate the start date for last 12 months option. So when I have to get the last 12 months, so I'll extract the first date of that last 12 months period. And then this is my adjusted start date. So if date range type is last 12 months, so my start date should be this, right? And if the date range type is not last 12 months, then my start date should be start date itself, right? And then I have to get this inside my. So now I have created this formula and you can click on done. So now my default here is showing me data for 2006 until 2018. If I see here and click on custom range, so if I go here, advanced editor, so if date range type, this thing is equal to last 12 months, then my last 12 months start date should be my start date, adjusted start date, right? So that is my, this one, last 12 months start date. Yes. Otherwise, give me start date like this. So now my filter data should have order date greater than equal to this one. So if I copy this to just to show, be sure that this is the same, adjusted end is this one, is this one, last 12 months, press OK. Logically, so default is my 12 months. So if I go here, it should not show me. Okay, so sorted rows that we don't need. Go back to advanced editor. It is giving filter data, sorted rows. If order date is greater than equal to adjusted start date and less than equal to adjusted end date. Perfect. Alrighty. So there is the mistake I did. So the value is last 12 months without space. So if you go here and advanced editor, all I'm doing is with spaces, right? So it is not, so it is bypassing this. So if this is equal to this, then this, right? So it is never equal to this. So it is always saying start date is my first, like start date, and end date is end date, right? So what I'll do is here, remove the spaces and this should work. Now if I click done, currently it is last 12 months. So this table is empty because currently I'm in year 2024 and this data has data from 2016 until 2021. So in last 12 months, there is no data, then table is empty. So if I go to my source data here, let me add one row with this data. Let's say 2024 January and quantity, let's make it bigger and control S. So now my data is saved with 2024. If I go back to my Power Query, refresh this data, I should get one record. See, so that's how quick it is. I can see this data 2024 and quantity is 100K. So now if you go back here, change it to custom range. Custom range is defined as start date and end date. Go to fact sales, you'll see the data for that. So there are two toggles, like there is a toggle for two values for the customers or users. So they can use a custom range, that is, you can define a start date and end date yourself, or you can see the data for last 12 months. And here you can make it last 6 months, last 2 years, 3 months. You can toggle on the basis of products. So if you want to toggle on brand, category, or regions, you can do so many things. Parameters are very important when you're working on Power Query. This gives you the flexibility to filter or slice your data on the desired outcome. So this was a bit about parameters where you use some part of mQuery. So if you go back to fact sales and click on advanced editor, you will understand this is not that challenging, but you should know the basics. So if you know the concept, you can use ChatGPT, and ChatGPT can give you this code. So the main objective is not learning the language; it is about the concept. So when you say this is my last step, so after this step, I have to apply a toggle of either custom range or last 12 months. So for toggle to work, you should define that. So my adjusted start date, so start date and end date, it will always be these two things when you're working on custom range or last 12 months. So my start date will change for last 12 months, it will be this one. So add months minus 12. And for the custom range, the start date will be equal to start date, whatever is the defined by user. So this is what it is. So the logic will remain the same. You just go to ChatGPT or other GPTs and you can ask, and it will give you the query. So don't learn the language, or don't give emphasis more on language. Give emphasis on the logic building. So concepts should be clear, right? So now if I go back, you can easily work on toggle, go on last 12 months or custom range, and you are done. This is amazing. I really love working on parameters and also working on creating the functions in Power Query. All right. So before we close up on this tutorial on Power Query, very important part is if you want to merge various data sources. So for example, you have data separately for each month. For example, you have one Excel file for January, another Excel file for February, so and so forth for December. So you have 12 files, January, February until December. And you want to have one single copy where you have all the months. How can you do that? So what you can do, go to new source. Let's say we have Excel data for that. And I think it's in dataset. So now if you see here, we have four files. So one is from January to March, then we have April to June, then we have July to September, and then we have October until December. So we have four files having 3 months each in the files. So how we can do that? So we can select all the files together. So let's start with any of them. Let's select this, and it will pop up in this Power Query. And this is my sheet, or you can select a table. So if you see here, table is better. It is already defined in my Excel. So I'll select that, click on OK. And then again, go back to new sheet, Excel workbook. And this time I will select Jan to March. And this time, again, I'll use my table. So I'll select sheet, select table, click OK. Again, go to my data from July to September this time. Select the table and press OK. And finally, the last file, October to December. And again, select the table. Right. So in this file, we don't have any table. So instead, we will take this sheet and click OK. So now, if you see here, this is my sheet having data, event ID, LGA, start date, until reason. Similarly for this, so it is important to have the same column names. So you'll see same for each of them, right? And similarly for this as well, right? And then for October to December, event ID until reason. So everything is good. And it is important to have the same data types. So now let's assume everything is perfect. So what I'll do is I have to append all these datas. So what I'll do is go to append queries. Here, I will just click cancel, go here and click append queries as new. And I want to have this first table. I want to have 3 or more tables. So I'll select table 1, this, and this. It's already there. Oh, it's there. So I can remove this. Yeah. So we have these 4 tables and click OK. Now, if you see this one, this is my outage data for year 2020. And if you see here, I have event ID, LGA, start date, start time, everything is there. If you see here, currently I have for all, but this data type is not correct. I can make it date. And if you see here, data is coming for all the months. But so our problem is solved. So I have all the months data in just one file. What I can do is I can select all of them and right click. I cannot delete them because this is all dependent on that. But what I can do is single-handedly I can just disable load for each of these tables. And once you close and apply this Power Query, so when you load the data in Power BI, all these four tables won't be coming in, only the outage data for full year will show up, right? So this is the beauty of using Power Query. And when we are working on this, there is one issue. So this is like a bonus. So we can see here start data and there are some errors, right? So if we load more, we're not able to see the errors. What can be the errors? Let's scroll down. Yeah. So here, if you see here, this is my error. We couldn't parse the input provided as a date value. So this is not being able to parse by Power Query. What can be the reason? So if you see here, initially before changing the type, you see here, this is my date 12/10/2020. Here it is 13/10/2020. So this is 13th of October 2020. This is 12th of October 2020. Currently, it is being understood as first is my month, then date, and then year. So 13 cannot be month, right? So this is the US standards, like um, it starts with month, then DD, then year, right? So that's the reason I'm not able to change it to date. So what I have to do is, before going ahead, right click, go to my, oh, go to data type, click on using locale, and say data type is text. Locale can be, let's say, United States. Where's United States? Date. So click OK. All right. So this is how right? So this is how you can append all the data which is coming for different months, and you will have just one file for every month. So this is amazing, and this is automatically done. So whenever you, like for example, each and every customer, they are working on separate months, whatever they update their months, and when the files are coming in Power Query, automatically it will come and combine. You don't have to do it again and again, right? Now, there is one error we can see here in column start date. You can see here some dates are coming in, then there is some error. So this is a very common error where we are seeing that there is a date issue. So if I change it to, if I change it to text, now replace current, and now you will see, okay, so I have to go back to error. Let's change it to this. Yeah. So, right, so this is how you can append all the data which are coming in from multiple files and then have just one combined Excel file or CSV file for all your months. This is amazing, and this is all automation. So if the users are working on separate files and you are passing them from Power Query editor, it will all come as one file combined. Beautiful. Now, as we are working on combining the data, there is issue with one column, that is start date, and you can see there is a red line, horizontal line. So there are some errors. What are the errors? Error here, it is showing data format dot error. We couldn't parse the value, input value provided as date value. So it is not able to recognize this as a date. So we have made it as a date data type, right? So it is not able to recognize this. Why? So let's get back to source. So if you see, these are the error values. Why? Because it is coming from US format. So you can see this is my MM, then DD, then YYYY. And here, if it is MM, DD, YYYY. And now if you change it to date, it is saying this is being treated as DDMMYYY. So this is the issue of date format. So now, instead of having this, so what I can do is go here, click on using locale, and I should have this date not from US. So currently I'm in Australia. So I would go to English, Australia, and then click OK and see. Okay, so you have to delete the previous version also, and then you would see the difference. Now you will see all the values are perfect. There is no error, not even a one error here. So this is how you can work on Power Query. It's a magical tool if you want to clean your data, transform your data. And now with Fabric, we have Power Query in Fabric as well. So it's not going anywhere. If you're a data analyst, data scientist, Power Query can be quite handy. So this was it. So if you came across from step one until now, if you have watched this complete video, I can guarantee you have done at least 80% of what is required in general business. Of course, I didn't even touch base on 5% of Power Query, but whatever I discussed, if you know all these things, I can be assured, guarantee you like 80% is done, whatever is required. So thanks a lot for watching this video, and please share with your friends if they are also working in analytics and they want to upskill themselves. Thank you.